Marie. Thanks for coming back in today. It's so nice to see you. How are you doing?
I'm good. Good. I'm glad to be here.
Good. Glad to hear it. Well, I'm glad that you've come back in. It's been about 2 weeks since we last met. And today what we're going to be working on is developing some goals to help you work through the situations that you've been facing over the last 2 weeks and a little bit before that as well. And this is going to be super collaborative. I want to make sure that these are things that you want to address, things that you're invested in. So just to recap from what I learned from the last session, last time we talked, you had just left your relationship with your abusive partner and you were staying at some temporary housing in a housing unit downtown. And you had mentioned to me that you were interested in potentially looking for some more stable housing, potentially finding a job to help support yourself. You had also mentioned wanting to potentially speak to someone who works in the mental health field. And so I just want to get a little bit of a pulse for how you're feeling about those things, if any of those desires have changed. So I'd like you to just tell me a little bit about what's been going on the last 2 weeks. Has anything changed about your situation? How are you doing?
I'm okay. I don't think anything's really changed. I still have those needs for the things that you said. I'm still looking to find a job and to find somewhere to live, but things have been pretty much the same since we last met, because I'm still kind of, I don't know, getting over like the shock, I guess, of what happened, or just sort of adjusting to the new lifestyle that I was kind of thrown into. So things are pretty much the same, but I definitely, everything you said was right.
Okay, so great. I'm glad that we can still work towards finding solutions for those problems that you've identified. Great. So I have in front of me, just so you can see, a sheet that we're going to work to fill out to develop some goals to address those problems that you just discussed, that we just talked about. Before we fill this out, I do want to just go over a few things for confidentiality. So like we talked about last time, what we talked about in this meeting will stay between me and you. This meeting is to support you and to help you develop a framework that will help you in the next few weeks, months, years as you work to fix and transition into a new place in life. Anything that you say here will stay between us. The few exceptions are if I hear that you're planning to harm yourself, to harm someone else, or if someone is planning to harm you. So please feel free to share any of those things. I obviously want to help you in your situation, but if I do hear any of those things, that would be something I would have to share with someone else. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So as you can see on the sheet, we have a few different spaces. We're going to start by addressing the main problems that you've identified that you'd like to find solutions to work towards. So if I had asked you today what two of the main problems are that you're hoping to face, what do you think you would say for those?
Probably to find a job,
Okay.
And to find somewhere to live too.
Okay. So one problem it seems like you're saying is you don't have a job right now.
Mm-hmm.
So no, we're right on here. The problem is being unemployed.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And another problem that you identified is not having a stable place to live. So for namesake on the sheet right now, we'll say homeless. Does that sound good to you?
Mm-hmm.
So let's work through one of these at a time to develop a list of things that we can use to make sure the goals that we're setting are very attainable, very manageable. The first problem that we're going to work through is your need to find a job, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned that you're unemployed. So we want to frame that to be something that you need. What I hear from that is that you have a need to make an income and you have a need to have a job. Does that sound correct to you?
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would say is a need in terms of unemployment for finding a job?
No, I guess that sums it up. Yeah.
Okay. So the client has a need to have an income. Okay. And to have a stable job. Okay. So a goal that we could come up with that is you would like the goal to have a job. Is that right? Okay, a job that you can go to, that you can make money at, an environment to work at. When you think about having a job, is there anything that excites you or interests you?
Well, I would like maybe to do something with kids. I like working with kids
Okay.
from like whatever experience I have had before. Maybe something like in a school. I mean, I guess ideally, or not ideally, but I don't have very much education or really experience at all. So um, I think it would be beneficial to be reasonable and to know that I can't, there are lots of things that I can't do because don't have any of those things. So like really just anything that gets me started. I won't be too picky.
Okay, but you do like working with children.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think you had mentioned that last time you really liked school, you liked
Mhm.
education. Okay, so I would suggest that maybe one of your goals is to have a job, but really the goal of that would be to potentially have a job where you're working with children. How do you feel about that? Would that excite
Yeah,
you?
that would be cool.
Okay, so have a job working with children. All right. So in order to accomplish this goal and having a job that you're working with children, that would allow you to have an income, have some sustainability with your finances. We want to come up with a few steps, things that we can do to get you to that point of having a job working with children. And for each step that we come up with, we want to assign who is going to be doing that step, helping you with that step. So it might be actions that you're taking, it may be actions that I'm taking to help support you. It may be actions that we can recruit other resources, family members, people that you're connected to help with. First steps typically for people who are looking to find a job is just to see what's out there, to make a list of the options. So I would suggest that our first action step for this goal would be to do some research on available job openings in the area. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
a good place to start.
Okay, so we're gonna look and make a list of open jobs in the area. And specifically, we're gonna do those jobs that relate to working with children.
Okay. So that's something that we do together.
It's a great question. So that can be something that we do together. That can be something that I do and provide for you and we work through it the next time. What do you think would be best for that?
Maybe if we do it together.
Okay, let's do that. So we will collaboratively look into some jobs that are open in the area. We'll make a list of them. Specifically, we want to look at ones that work with children. Would you be open to any other jobs in the area that aren't working specifically with children?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we'll also include on our list other jobs that don't work specifically with children. Okay. Okay, so from there, after we do those jobs that work specifically with children, and then we have a few other options, we want to do one more thing on top of that, right? We need something to layer on top of that to get us closer to you having that job. Any ideas for what our next step might be?
I guess like get whatever I would need. Like I don't really have much of like a resume or any experience or anything, but anything that I would need in terms of like applying or like the hiring process eventually, like all those things, I guess getting all those together,
Great.
I guess would make sense.
Okay. I think that's a great step that we can take. So we do want to create a resume. Or just look into some of the requirements for the applications of these jobs, right? Is that something that you think you would be able to do, or would you like some support doing that?
I could definitely start on my own. I might need some help, but I could start.
Okay. Okay, so, and that's something that we'll do after we look at this list. So the first thing we do, like we mentioned, in order to the goal of having a job, we'll take a look at the list that the two of us will create together of all the jobs in the area that are open for working with children, maybe a few others. And then from there, we'll look at the requirements for the jobs and see what we can come up with. The next step will be for you to work to see which jobs apply to your skill set. Okay. And then from there, the next goal or the next action that we want to take to achieving that goal of having a job is to get you to apply for some of these jobs, right? Do interviews, talk with some organizations, anything that you need to actually physically apply for the job would come next. So I'm just going to write apply here. How do you feel about that? Okay. Great. Okay, so those are some solid steps that will help us work towards you getting a job. Is there anything else that you would include in there that you think would be helpful?
Not that I can think of right now.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Now that we have a list of a few different action steps, we want to look at how these steps will be measured. We want to make sure that along the way, we're really taking inventory of what we're doing, making sure that everything we're doing is manageable. So in terms of this first task that we're going to do is creating a list of openings for jobs in the area. Let's measure that by a number. What do you think? Let's set a bar of a number about how many jobs we want to have on our list for you to look into. Do you have a rough number of something you would be interested in? How many jobs we could look into?
I don't know, maybe 5 or 10, maybe somewhere around there. I'm not sure.
Okay. I think that's a really great number. Keeps our options open. So we'll make a list of 5 or 10 items for jobs. Okay. And we want a job would be made better, as we mentioned, be made better if it works with children, right? Because that's something that would help you be fulfilled in your job. Okay. So better if it includes children's. After that, we said that you were gonna specifically work to look at the requirements for those jobs and to kind of create a resume along those lines. So to measure that, let's say that you'll work on that resume. Once we get to that step, look at the requirements for the job. And I'd love to see a copy of that resume so that once you work on it a little bit, or if you need some help working on it, we can connect you with some professionals in that area as well. So to measure that action step, we'll say for the next meeting, why don't you bring in a copy of that resume, okay? And we have some resources before you leave that we can provide to you as well over in our office. And then finally, we want you to be able to apply. Okay, so we're going to translate that into once you are able to apply for a job, we want to have a time frame. We want a time frame for all of this to happen. I know that it's been about 2 weeks since we last talked and you've been thinking about wanting to have a job and be employed for a while. Is there a hopeful time frame that you have for when you would like to start working a job?
I mean, as soon as possible. I know this whole process will probably take a little while.
Okay.
But I don't know, maybe like within the month or as soon as possible, I guess. I don't really know how it works.
Okay, as soon as possible. I think that would be great as well. Do you feel like from our conversations, it seems like you're in a good space to take the next step towards looking for a job. So I think it would be reasonable to say within the next month. So in order to get you to be applied to jobs in the next month, that means that we need to do these other steps beforehand. So my suggestion would be that for that first action step of making a list of jobs that are open in the area, let's plan to do that in the next week. Hopefully we can meet again in about a week and we can